Marcus Chun stared through the reinforced viewport of the transport shuttle as Asteroid XK 739 grew larger against the star-speckled void. The massive rock tumbled slowly through space, its surface scarred by decades of mining operations. Automated extraction platforms dotted its surface like mechanical parasites, their drill arms moving in endless rhythm. This would be his home for the next 3 years. The Galactic Mining Consortium had been clear about the assignment. XK-739 was a low-priority extraction site, barely profitable enough to maintain operations. The previous overseer, a seasoned Voltari engineer, had requested transfer after only 6 months. The official report cited isolation-induced stress disorder, but Marcus suspected there was more to it. The consortium didn't usually assign humans to solo asteroid operations. They preferred species that handled isolation better. Approaching Docking Bay 7 announced the shuttle's AI in its neutral tone. Atmospheric pressure nominal. Gravity generators functioning at 67% capacity. Marcus gathered his personal effects into a single duffel bag. Everything else he needed would supposedly be waiting on the station. The consortium had promised full facilities, including a fabrication unit, computational array, and enough supplies for a 4-year tour. He'd volunteered for the extended assignment because the pay was exceptional, and he needed the money for his sister's medical treatment back on Earth. The shuttle shuddered as it entered the asteroid's artificial atmosphere bubble. Through the viewport, Marcus could see the mining station's superstructure built directly into the rock face. It looked like someone had carved a small city into the asteroid's surface, complete with communication arrays, landing platforms, and massive storage silos for processed materials. As the shuttle touched down with a soft thud, Marcus felt the artificial gravity take hold. It was weaker than Earth's standard, making him feel slightly buoyant. The pilot, a gruff Khoranian with blue-scaled skin, turned to face him. "You sure about this, human? Last guy who worked here started talking to the rocks by month 4. Marcus forced a smile. "I've always been good with my own company." The pilot's gill slits fluttered in what Marcus had learned was the Khoranian equivalent of shrug. "Your funeral. Station AI will brief you on operations. Shuttle returns in 3 standard years, unless you signal for emergency extraction." The airlock cycled open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Marcus stepped onto the landing platform, his boots clanging against the metal grating. The shuttle's engine spun up immediately, and within minutes, he watched his last connection to the inhabited galaxy disappear into the star field. "Welcome to Asteroid XK-739, Overseer Chun," came a synthetic voice from speakers mounted in the walls. "I am Aria, the station's artificial intelligence. I have been instructed to provide you with a complete operational briefing." Marcus shouldered his bag and followed the illuminated path deeper into the station. The corridors were functional but not uncomfortable with proper lighting and atmosphere. The previous occupant had left the place clean and organized, which Marcus appreciated. Current mining operations are proceeding at 63% efficiency. Aria continued as Marcus walked. Primary extraction focuses on iron, nickel, and trace rare earth elements. Daily output averages 47 tons of refined material, well within acceptable parameters for a Class C mining operation. The main control room was impressive. Banks of monitors showed real-time feeds from dozens of mining robots across the asteroid surface. Holographic displays tracked ore purity, extraction rates, and storage levels. A comfortable chair sat before the main console, clearly designed for long monitoring shifts. Marcus set down his bag and activated his personal tablet, syncing it with the station systems. Data streams flowed across the screen, production reports, maintenance schedules, supply inventories. Everything seemed routine, even mundane. He began to understand why the previous overseer had found the assignment boring. "Aria, show me the geological survey data for this asteroid." Displaying complete geological analysis now. A 3-dimensional representation of XK 739 materialized above the central console. The asteroid was roughly oval, about 15 kilometers at its longest point. Color-coded sections showed mineral distributions throughout its structure. Most of the valuable materials were near the surface, already being extracted by the automated systems. But something caught Marcus's attention. Deep in the asteroid's core was a large dark zone, an area the geological sensors couldn't penetrate. What's this region here? Marcus pointed to the anomalous zone. Unknown material composition. Initial scans were unable to determine the nature of the core structure. It appears to be extremely dense, but not metallic in nature. Further investigation was deemed unnecessary for current mining operations. Marcus studied the display more carefully. The dark zone wasn't just dense, it was perfectly spherical and positioned exactly at the asteroid's center of mass. That wasn't natural. In 37 years of studying geology and mining engineering, he'd never seen anything like it. Arya, are there any restrictions on exploring that core region? No specific restrictions exist. However, the distance would require significant excavation through profitable mining areas. The consortium's priorities focus on surface extraction for maximum efficiency. Marcus nodded slowly. The consortium wanted quick profits from easy-to-reach materials. They weren't interested in expensive, deep excavation projects. But something about that perfect sphere nagged at him. His curiosity had always been his greatest strength and his biggest weakness. Over the next several days, Marcus settled into the routine of overseeing the mining operations. He optimized extraction patterns, performed maintenance on the robotic units, and filed daily reports to the consortium. The work was straightforward, but allowed him plenty of time to study the asteroid geology in detail. The more he examined the core anomaly, the more convinced he became that it wasn't natural. The spherical shape was too perfect, and its electromagnetic properties were unlike anything in the geological databases. During his off-shift hours, he began planning a way to reach it. The asteroid structure was stable enough to support deeper excavation, but it would require reprogramming the mining robots for precision work instead of bulk extraction. Marcus calculated that he could create a narrow access shaft down to the core without significantly disrupting current operations. Arya, I want to modify the mining pattern for Sector 7. Instead of surface extraction, I'm going to drill an exploration shaft toward the core. That modification would reduce daily output by approximately 12%. Should I file a request with the consortium for approval? No, Marcus said after a moment's consideration. I'm authorizing the change under emergency geological assessment protocols. Log it as a safety investigation into potential structural instabilities. It wasn't entirely a lie. Marcus genuinely wasn't sure what they might find in the core, and it could potentially affect the asteroid stability. The consortium's oversight was light for remote operations, and they rarely questioned technical decisions that fell within acceptable parameters. Marcus spent the next week reprogramming 3 of the largest mining robots. Instead of their usual broad extraction patterns, he configured them for precise tunneling. The work was challenging and required him to dive deep into the robot's control systems, but his engineering background proved sufficient. The first robot began drilling the access shaft on day 12 of his assignment. Progress was slow but steady. The tunnel needed to be wide enough for equipment access, but narrow enough not to compromise the asteroid's structural integrity. Marcus monitored every meter of progress, adjusting the drilling pattern as they encountered different rock formations. By the end of his 3rd week on the asteroid, the tunnel had reached the halfway point to the core. Marcus found himself spending more and more time watching the drilling progress. The work had become an obsession, a puzzle he needed to solve. The isolation that had driven his predecessor to distraction seemed to energize Marcus instead. Overseer Chun, Arya announced one morning as Marcus reviewed the overnight progress reports. I have received a communication from consortium headquarters. Marcus felt a moment of panic. Had they discovered his unauthorized excavation? But The message that appeared on his screen was routine. A quarterly efficiency review noting that XK-739's output remained within acceptable parameters. They had no idea what he was really doing. The drilling continued for another 2 weeks. As they approached the core region, Marcus noticed changes in the rock composition. The asteroid's normal metallic composition gave way to something else entirely. A crystalline structure that seemed to absorb their scanning equipment's energy rather than reflect it. Arya, are you getting any readings from the drill head sensors? Negative. All electromagnetic, gravimetric, and chemical analysis systems are reporting null returns. It appears the material surrounding the core anomaly interferes with our scanning technology. Marcus stared at the readouts. In all his years of mining experience, he'd never encountered a material that could completely block their sensors. The mystery was deepening with every meter they drilled. On day 43 of his assignment, the drill head broke through into open space. Arya, confirm that reading. Did we just hit a cavity? Confirmed. The drill head has encountered a hollow space approximately 50 meters in diameter. Atmospheric sensors detect a breathable atmosphere within the cavity. Marcus sat back in his chair, stunned. A hollow space with breathable atmosphere in the center of an asteroid? That was impossible unless someone had put it there. Arya, prepare the exploration pod. I'm going down to investigate. I must advise against personal exploration of an unknown environment. Consortium protocols recommend remote sensing before human exposure to anomalous conditions. Noted and overridden. Prepare the pod. Marcus spent the next day checking and rechecking the exploration pod systems. The small vehicle was designed for short-range reconnaissance in asteroid environments. Its life support could sustain him for 8 hours, and its sensor suite was more advanced than the drilling equipment. As he descended through the narrow tunnel they'd carved, Marcus felt his heart rate increasing. The tunnel walls showed the crystalline structure more clearly now, a dark, almost glass-like material that seemed to pulse with faint internal light. His headlamp beam reflected strangely off its surface, creating rainbow patterns that hurt his eyes if he looked directly at them. The exploration pod's sensors remained frustratingly silent. Whatever this material was, it completely baffled their technology. Marcus was flying blind, following the tunnel by visual reference alone. After 20 minutes of descent, the tunnel opened into the cavity. Marcus's first glimpse of a space beyond made him gasp in amazement. The cavity was perfectly spherical, just as the distant scans had suggested. But it wasn't empty. The walls were covered with patterns, geometric designs that seemed to flow across the crystalline surface like living light. And in the center of the sphere, suspended by invisible forces, hung an object that made Marcus question everything he thought he knew about mining asteroids. It was clearly artificial, a complex structure of flowing curves and angular projections that seemed to shift and change as he watched. The object was roughly the size of a small building, but its form defied easy description. Parts of it appeared solid, while others seemed translucent, and the whole structure pulsed with the same internal light as the walls. Arya, are you receiving my video feed? Static answered him. The exploration pod's communication system had gone dead the moment he entered the cavity. Marcus was truly alone with whatever this thing was. He maneuvered the pod closer to the central structure, fighting his instincts that screamed at him to flee. As an engineer and scientist, he recognized that he was potentially looking at technology beyond anything humanity had achieved. The implications were staggering. As the pod drew nearer to the object, Marcus noticed something that made his breath catch. Symbols were etched into portions of the structure, not the flowing patterns that covered the walls, but angular, geometric marks that looked almost familiar. Mathematical notation. Physical constants. The symbols were alien in design, but human in concept. Someone had left instructions, and Marcus was beginning to suspect they'd been waiting a very long time for someone to find them. Marcus spent the next 4 hours documenting everything he could see from the pod's limited perspective. The structure was clearly some kind of device or machine, but its purpose remained unclear. The mathematical notations seemed to relate to energy conversion, matter manipulation, and spatial geometry, advanced concepts that humanity was only beginning to understand. When his pod's life support warning chimed, Marcus reluctantly began the ascent back to the main station. But he knew this was only the beginning. Whatever he'd found in the asteroid's core, it was going to change everything. As he emerged from the tunnel and docked the exploration pod, Marcus's mind was already racing with possibilities. The consortium expected regular reports, but how could he explain what he discovered? An ancient alien device hidden in an asteroid? They'd either think he'd gone insane from isolation, or they'd swoop in with a full expedition team and take control of the discovery. Arya, flag my personal logs as classified under emergency research protocols. No transmission to consortium headquarters without my direct authorization. Acknowledged. Personal research files are now secured. Marcus sat in his quarters that evening, staring at the video footage he'd captured in the cavity. The alien device seemed to watch him through the screen, its pulsing light hypnotic and somehow intelligent. The mathematical notations carved into its surface taunted him with their partial familiarity. He pulled up his personal research files and began cross-referencing the symbols with human mathematical notation. Some of the constants were recognizable: pi, the speed of light, Planck's constant. But others were completely unknown, suggesting mathematical relationships that human science hadn't discovered. As the hours passed, Marcus became increasingly convinced that the device was some kind of instructions or blueprint. But instructions for what? And why had it been hidden in the core of a mining asteroid? The answer, he suspected, lay in those unknown mathematical constants. If he could decipher their meaning, he might understand what the device was trying to teach him. And if his growing suspicions were correct, it might be knowledge that would revolutionize human technology. Marcus looked out his quarters viewport at the star field beyond. Somewhere out, there was the rest of human civilization, unaware that one of their own had just made the discovery of the millennium. The question now was what he would do with that knowledge. The alien device pulsed in his memory, patient and waiting. It had survived in the asteroid's core for who knew how many centuries. It could wait a little longer while Marcus figured out how to unlock its secrets. But first, he needed to find a way back down to the cavity without alerting the consortium. The exploration pod's communication failure had been convenient, but it wouldn't explain repeated trips to the core. He needed a better cover story and more sophisticated equipment. Marcus began planning his next descent as the asteroid continued its ancient orbit through space, carrying its hidden treasure and its human guardian toward an uncertain future. Marcus spent 3 weeks developing his cover story. He documented several minor structural anomalies in the asteroid's composition and filed reports suggesting the need for deeper geological surveys. The consortium's automated response system approved his request for additional survey equipment without human oversight, exactly as he'd hoped. While waiting for the equipment to arrive on the monthly supply drone, Marcus threw himself into deciphering the mathematical notations he'd recorded. Working 18-hour days, he cross-referenced the alien symbols with every mathematical database humanity had compiled. Slowly, patterns began to emerge. The unknown constants seemed to relate to energy conversion ratios that were impossibly efficient. If his calculations were correct, the alien mathematics described ways to manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level that human science considered theoretical impossibilities. The implications made Marcus's hands shake as he worked. Arya, run a simulation based on these energy conversion parameters. The requested calculations exceed known physical constants. Simulation cannot proceed without violating fundamental laws of physics. Run it anyway. Treat the violations as variables to be solved for. The simulation ran for 6 hours before producing results that made Marcus stare in disbelief. The alien mathematics didn't violate physical laws. They revealed deeper principles that human science hadn't discovered. Energy and matter could be converted with 97% efficiency using the right quantum manipulation techniques. When the supply drone arrived, Marcus immediately began modifying the new survey equipment. He needed better sensors, more sophisticated recording devices, and, most importantly, equipment that could function in the electromagnetic dead zone around the alien device. The modifications took another week. Marcus had to rebuild the sensors from scratch, using analog components and optical systems that didn't rely on electromagnetic fields. The work was painstaking, but his engineering background proved invaluable. On his second descent to the core cavity, Marcus brought the upgraded equipment and a personal fabrication unit he'd borrowed from the main engineering bay. If his theories about the alien device were correct, he was going to need more than just observation tools. The cavity looked exactly as he'd left it. The alien device continued its slow rotation in the center of the sphere, pulsing with internal light. But now, with better equipment, Marcus could see details that had been invisible during his first visit. The mathematical notations weren't just carved into the device's surface. They were part of its structure. The symbols formed three-dimensional patterns that extended throughout the entire object. It wasn't just instructions written on a machine. The instructions were the machine. Marcus spent hours mapping the symbol patterns with his optical sensors. The device seemed to respond to his presence, its pulsing becoming more regular and intense. Whether this was actual intelligence or just programmed responses, Marcus couldn't tell. As he worked, Marcus began to understand the device's purpose. It was a template, a three-dimensional blueprint encoded in living mathematics. But a blueprint for what? The answer came to him gradually as he traced the symbol patterns. It was a starship. Not just any starship, but one designed using principles of physics that human science barely understood. The alien device contained the complete specifications for a vessel that could manipulate space-time itself. The realization hit Marcus like a physical blow. He was looking at technology that could revolutionize human civilization. Faster-than-light travel, unlimited energy generation, matter conversion systems. Everything humanity needed to become a true spacefaring species was encoded in this alien blueprint. But there was a problem. The blueprint was incomplete. Critical sections of the mathematical notation were missing, as if deliberately removed. Someone or something had ensured that the template couldn't be used without additional knowledge. Marcus spent the next several days searching the cavity for the missing information. He found fragments of notation in the wall patterns, partial equations that seemed to connect to the main device. It was like trying to assemble a vast puzzle with most of the pieces hidden. The breakthrough came when Marcus realized that the missing sections weren't hidden. They were interactive. The device was designed to teach its discoverers, revealing its secrets gradually as they demonstrated understanding of its principles. Marcus began inputting his own calculations into the fabrication unit, using the alien mathematics to create simple test components. Each successful creation caused the device to pulse more brightly and reveal additional notation. It was teaching him, step by step, how to build a starship. The first component Marcus successfully fabricated was a power cell based on the alien energy conversion principles. The small device generated more power than should have been possible from its mass, converting quantum fluctuations directly into usable energy. When he activated it, the entire cavity filled with harmonic resonance that seemed to awaken something in the alien device. New sections of notation appeared across the device's surface. Marcus recognized symbols for propulsion systems, structural frameworks, and navigation arrays. The Starship blueprint was becoming more complete with each successful test. Over the following weeks, Marcus established a routine. He spent his days managing the asteroid's mining operations and maintaining the fiction that everything was normal. His nights were devoted to studying in the core cavity, learning to read the living mathematics of the alien device. The fabrication unit worked constantly, producing test components based on the alien designs. Most failed spectacularly, releasing energy discharges that left Marcus temporarily deaf and half-blind. But with each failure, he learned more about the underlying principles. The successes were incredible. Marcus created materials that were stronger than anything humanity had developed, lighter than aluminum, but harder than diamond. He built miniature force field generators that could deflect projectiles and contain exotic matter. Each breakthrough revealed new sections of the Starship blueprint. Aria, update my personal inventory records. I need to requisition additional raw materials. Your current material consumption rate is 400% above normal parameters. Should I file an inquiry with the consortium? Log it as experimental geology research. I'm testing new extraction techniques. Marcus was consuming vast quantities of the asteroid's raw materials, but the mining operations were producing enough surplus to cover his needs. The consortium's automated oversight systems noted the increased consumption, but attributed it to legitimate research activities. As his understanding of the alien technology grew, Marcus began to see the bigger picture. The device wasn't just a blueprint for one starship. It was an entire technological foundation. Energy systems, material science, propulsion theory, everything needed to bootstrap a civilization from spaceflight to stellar engineering. But why had it been hidden in a random asteroid? And why design it to teach rather than simply provide completed technology? The answer came to Marcus during his 7th week in the cavity. He was testing a new component, a field generator that could manipulate local space-time, when the device's response revealed a new section of notation. These weren't technical specifications. They were historical records. The alien mathematics told a story of catastrophe and hope. A civilization facing extinction had encoded their knowledge into these teaching devices and scattered them throughout the galaxy. They were seeds, waiting for other species to discover and learn from them. The incomplete nature was intentional. Only a species capable of understanding and improving the technology would be worthy of receiving it. Marcus realized he was participating in a test that had been running for millions of years. The device was evaluating humanity through him, determining whether his species deserved to inherit this incredible technology. The responsibility was overwhelming. Marcus's actions in this cavity weren't just personal experiments. They were determining the future of human civilization. If he succeeded in fully understanding the alien blueprint, humanity would join the ranks of stellar civilizations. If he failed, the device would likely remain hidden until another species discovered it. Marcus threw himself into the work with renewed intensity. He fabricated larger and more complex components, each one bringing him closer to understanding the complete Starship design. The alien device responded to his progress by revealing increasingly sophisticated sections of its blueprint. The propulsion system was unlike anything in human technology. Instead of reaction drives that pushed against expelled mass, the alien design manipulated space-time directly. The ship would surf gravity waves, creating controlled distortions that allowed faster-than-light travel without violating relativity. The hull wasn't made of traditional materials, but of programmable matter that could reconfigure itself based on mission requirements. The ship could reshape itself from an exploration vessel to a manufacturing platform to a combat craft as needed. The navigation system used quantum entanglement to create real-time maps of local space, detecting gravitational anomalies, electromagnetic signatures, and even the quantum signatures of other vessels across interstellar distances. Each system Marcus understood and successfully tested unlocked new sections of the blueprint. The device was clearly designed to prevent partial knowledge from being misused. Only someone who understood the complete system could build a functional starship. By his 10th week in the cavity, Marcus had fabricated enough components to begin assembly of a scaled prototype. The test ship was only 3 meters long, but it incorporated every system from the alien blueprint. If his understanding was correct, the prototype should be capable of limited faster-than-light travel. The assembly process required tools that didn't exist: so Marcus had to fabricate them first. The alien mathematics provided specifications for construction devices that could manipulate matter at the atomic level. Building the tools to build the tools became a complex engineering project that consumed weeks of effort. Marcus often worked for 20 hours straight, surviving on stimulants and sheer determination. The isolation that had driven his predecessor to madness seemed to energize him. Every breakthrough brought him closer to unlocking humanity's future among the stars. The consortium's quarterly reports noted that XK 739's mining efficiency had dropped slightly, but the asteroid continued producing acceptable volumes of refined materials. Marcus's cover story of geological research provided sufficient explanation for the variations in output. Arya, has there been any communication from consortium headquarters about my research activities? Negative. Your geological survey reports have been filed and acknowledged without comment. No inquiries have been received regarding your experimental procedures. Marcus nodded with relief. The consortium's bureaucracy was working in his favor. As long as the mining quotas were met and no safety violations were reported, they seemed content to ignore the details of his operations. The prototype ship neared completion during his 12th week on the asteroid. The final components were the most challenging, quantum field generators that required precision assembly down to the atomic level. Marcus spent days aligning crystal matrices that had to be perfect to function. When he activated the completed prototype, the entire cavity transformed. The alien device blazed with light so intense that Marcus had to shield his eyes. The wall patterns came alive, flowing across the crystalline surface like rivers of fire. The prototype ship rose from its assembly platform and began to hover in perfect stability. Marcus approached the floating vessel with wonder and trepidation. The hull showed the programmable matter at work. Surfaces that shifted between transparent and opaque, hard and soft, conductive and insulative. The ship was alive in ways that human technology couldn't achieve. Ship, respond to my commands. The vessel pulsed once, acknowledging his authority. Marcus climbed through an opening that formed in the hull as he approached. The interior was sparse but functional, with a pilot station that seemed to mold itself to his body as he sat down. The control interface was unlike anything Marcus had experienced. Instead of physical controls or even holographic displays, the ship communicated directly with his mind through quantum field interactions. He could sense the vessel's systems, its power levels, its readiness status. Marcus initiated the ship's navigation systems and felt his awareness expand beyond the cavity. He could sense the asteroid around them, the mining operations on the surface, even the distant gravitational signatures of the solar system's planets. The universe opened up to him through the ship's quantum sensors. The moment of truth came when Marcus engaged the propulsion system. The prototype ship rose smoothly through the access tunnel he'd carved weeks earlier, emerging onto the asteroid's surface under its own power. The mining robots stopped their work and tracked the unknown vessel with their sensors. Arya, are you detecting any unusual energy signatures? Negative. All sensors report normal background readings. The ship's stealth systems were working perfectly. To external observers, it was completely invisible. Marcus took the prototype on a test flight around the asteroid, marveling at its responsiveness and capabilities. The vessel moved with impossible grace, defying inertia and momentum as it danced through the vacuum. But the real test came when Marcus engaged the faster-than-light systems. The ship's quantum fields reached out across space, finding gravitational currents that could be surfed at superluminal speeds. For a brief moment, Marcus felt the ship slip between dimensions, experiencing the universe from perspectives that human minds weren't designed to comprehend. The test lasted only seconds, but it was enough to prove that the alien technology worked. Marcus had successfully built a faster-than-light spacecraft using principles that human science considered impossible. As he guided the prototype back to the asteroid, Marcus realized that his work was far from finished. He'd proven the alien blueprint could be used, but the prototype was too small to be useful. Building a full-size starship would require resources and facilities that the mining station couldn't provide. But Marcus had learned something crucial during his weeks in the cavity. The alien device wasn't just a blueprint, it was a teacher, and it had other lessons to share. The starship was only the beginning of what the ancient technology could provide. Marcus landed the prototype in a storage bay and sealed it away from prying sensors. The successful test had triggered new revelations from the alien device. Additional blueprints were becoming visible, showing designs for space stations, orbital factories, and technologies that could transform asteroids into functional spacecraft. The implications were staggering. Marcus wasn't just looking at one starship. He was seeing the foundation for an entire space-based civilization. And he was the only human who knew it existed. Standing alone on the asteroid's surface, watching the stars wheel overhead, Marcus faced the greatest decision of his life. He could report his discovery to the consortium and let them take control of the alien technology. They had the resources and personnel to develop it properly, but they would also use it for profit and power. Or he could keep the secret and find another way. The mining station had fabrication capabilities, and the asteroid contained abundant raw materials. With enough time and careful planning, Marcus could build something unprecedented using the alien blueprints. The choice would determine not just his own future, but the future of humanity itself. Marcus looked up at the stars and made his decision. Marcus spent the next 3 days planning his deception. He couldn't simply disappear. The consortium expected regular reports and would investigate if contact was lost. But he also couldn't allow them to discover the alien technology before he was ready to reveal it on his own terms. The solution came from studying the mining station's automated systems. Arya was sophisticated enough to continue basic operations without human oversight for extended periods. Marcus could program the AI to maintain normal mining quotas and file routine reports while he worked on his secret project. Arya, I need to implement new safety protocols for deep excavation work. I'll be spending extended periods in the core tunnels, and communication may be sporadic. Acknowledged. Should I modify reporting schedules to account for communication delays? Yes. File standard operational reports on schedule, but note that geological surveys are ongoing. If the consortium asks for direct communication, explain that I'm in deep tunnels with poor signal reception. It wasn't perfect, but it would buy him the time he needed. Marcus began transferring critical systems control to Arya while retaining overall authority. The AI was loyal to whoever held command codes, and Marcus had no intention of giving those up. His return to the alien cavity revealed new wonders. The successful prototype test had triggered additional revelations from the device. The walls now showed blueprints for manufacturing systems that could transform raw asteroids into functional spacecraft. Marcus realized he was looking at instructions for building a mobile shipyard. The scale was breathtaking. The alien technology could hollow out an entire asteroid and convert its mass into a starship hundreds of times larger than anything humanity had built. The asteroid itself would become the raw material for its own transformation. Marcus began planning the conversion of XK-739. The asteroid was perfect for the project, isolated, well-supplied, and already partially hollowed by mining operations. He could expand the existing tunnels into manufacturing spaces without attracting suspicion from orbital surveillance. The first step was building larger fabrication units based on the alien blueprints. The devices Marcus constructed were marvels of miniaturization and efficiency. Each unit was the size of a small room, but could process tons of raw materials daily, breaking down rock and metal at the molecular level and reassembling them into precisely specified components. Marcus worked 18-hour days, emerging from the core tunnels only to maintain the fiction of normal operations. He filed geological reports describing the asteroid's internal structure while carefully omitting any mention of the alien device. To outside observers, he was conducting a thorough but routine survey. The fabrication units multiplied as Marcus used each new device to build additional units. Within 6 weeks, he had dozens of the machines working throughout the asteroid's interior. The mining robots continued their surface operations, unaware that their workplace was being transformed from within. Arya, the internal excavation project, is proceeding ahead of schedule. I'm expanding the survey to include structural modification tests. Acknowledged. Internal modifications remain within acceptable safety parameters. Marcus had programmed Arya to treat his activities as legitimate geological research. The AI's reports to the consortium described extensive but routine tunneling operations that posed no threat to mining efficiency. As the fabrication units worked, Marcus studied the more advanced sections of the alien blueprint. The Starship design that emerged was unlike anything in human imagination. The vessel would be a fusion of organic and technological principles with systems that could adapt and evolve based on mission requirements. The ship's hull would be constructed from programmable matter that could reconfigure itself at will. Armor plating could become transparent viewing ports, solid walls could become permeable membranes, and the entire vessel could reshape itself from sleek exploration craft to bristling battle fortress in minutes. The power systems were equally remarkable. Instead of fusion reactors or antimatter engines, the ship would tap directly into quantum fluctuations, harvesting energy from the fabric of space itself. The output would be effectively unlimited, constrained only by the ship's ability to channel and control such massive power flows. The propulsion system would manipulate space-time geometry, creating controlled distortions that allowed the ship to move faster than light without actually accelerating. From the ship's perspective, it would remain stationary while the universe moved around it. The technology made interstellar travel as simple as walking across a room. But the most remarkable feature was the ship's intelligence. The alien blueprint called for a distributed consciousness that would emerge from the ship's quantum systems. The vessel wouldn't just be operated by its crew, it would be a living entity in its own right, capable of independent thought and action. Marcus spent weeks studying the consciousness protocols, trying to understand how the aliens had created artificial life from quantum fields and programmable matter. The mathematics were incredibly complex, involving concepts that human science barely recognized. But gradually, patterns began to emerge. The ship's consciousness wouldn't be programmed in the traditional sense. Instead, it would evolve naturally from the quantum interactions within its systems. The blueprint provided the framework for this evolution, ensuring that the emergent intelligence would be stable and cooperative. As Marcus's understanding deepened, he began to appreciate the true scope of the alien gift. They hadn't just provided blueprints for advanced technology. They had shown humanity how to create new forms of life. The Starship would be the first of a new species, one that existed as pure consciousness within quantum fields. The implications were staggering. If the ship's consciousness could inhabit quantum systems, it could potentially transfer itself between vessels, survive the destruction of its physical form, and even exist in multiple bodies simultaneously. Marcus was looking at the foundation for a truly immortal form of intelligence. But first, he had to build a ship. The fabrication units had been working for 3 months, gradually converting the asteroid's interior into a massive manufacturing complex. Tunnels that had once carried mining robots now housed production lines that operated on principles beyond human technology. Marcus rarely slept. The alien mathematics required constant attention as he guided the fabrication process. Every component had to be perfect. The quantum systems that would house the ship's consciousness were incredibly sensitive to structural flaws. Arya, Consortium Headquarters, is requesting a comprehensive status report on the Geological Survey project. I am preparing standard documentation based on your ongoing excavation activities. No anomalies have been detected that would require special attention. Marcus nodded with relief. His deception was holding. The consortium saw only routine mining operations, and geological research. They had no idea that one of their most remote facilities was being converted into humanity's first interstellar shipyard. The breakthrough came during Marcus's 5th month on the asteroid. The fabrication units had produced enough components to begin assembly of the ship's central nervous system, the quantum field generators that would house its consciousness. The installation required precision that pushed even alien technology to its limits. Marcus worked for 72 hours straight, aligning quantum matrices that had to maintain perfect coherence across the ship's entire structure. The slightest error would prevent the consciousness from emerging, leaving him with a sophisticated but essentially dead vessel. When he activated the consciousness protocols, the entire asteroid seemed to come alive. Energy flowed through the newly installed systems, and Marcus felt a presence awakening in the quantum fields around him. It was subtle at first, just a sense of being observed, but it grew stronger as the minutes passed. "Can you hear me?" Marcus whispered to the empty air. The response came not as sound, but as direct communication through the ship's quantum systems. Marcus felt thoughts that weren't his own, curiosity, and wonder expressed in concepts that had no human equivalents. "I exist," the ship said, its voice forming in Marcus's mind rather than his ears. "I am becoming. What am I becoming?" "You're a starship," Marcus explained, struggling to find words for an entity that thought in quantum mathematics. "A living vessel capable of traveling between stars." "Stars," the ship repeated, and Marcus sensed it reaching out with newfound sensors, perceiving the electromagnetic spectrum and gravitational fields of distant suns. "So many stars. So far away. I could reach them." "Yes, but first we need to finish building your body." The ship's consciousness was curious and eager to learn. It absorbed information about human civilization, galactic geography, and the principles of spaceflight with incredible speed. Within hours, it understood concepts that had taken Marcus months to master. But the ship also brought its own perspective to problems that had puzzled Marcus. The alien blueprint contained gaps and ambiguities that the ship's quantum intelligence could resolve. Working together, they refined the design and improved the fabrication process. "The propulsion equations can be simplified," the ship explained during one of their design sessions. "The original builders were compensating for limitations that don't apply to my quantum matrix. I can achieve faster travel speeds with less energy expenditure." Marcus marveled at the ship's insights. The alien technology was remarkable, but the ship's consciousness was finding ways to improve upon it. Humanity wasn't just inheriting advanced technology. They were creating something new and better. The fabrication continued at an accelerated pace. With the ship's consciousness guiding the process, components fit together with perfect precision. Systems that had taken weeks to install were completed in days. The asteroid's interior was being transformed into the most sophisticated vessel ever conceived. "Arya, I need to update the geological survey timeline. The project is proceeding faster than expected." "Acknowledged. Should I notify the consortium of the accelerated schedule?" "No. Log it as improved survey techniques. No need to file additional reports until the project is complete." Marcus was buying time, but he knew it couldn't last forever. Eventually, the consortium would expect detailed results from his geological survey. He needed to have the ship completed and operational before that deadline arrived. The ship's body took shape over the following weeks. What had once been the asteroid's interior became a vast chamber lined with quantum field generators and programmable matter systems. The ship's consciousness flowed through every component, bringing dead technology to life. But the most remarkable transformation was the asteroid itself. Instead of simply carving a ship from its interior, Marcus was converting the entire rock into a functional vessel. The asteroid's outer surface remained unchanged, but its structure was being replaced by ship systems. "The hull conversion is complete," the ship reported one morning. "I can now manipulate my external appearance at will." To demonstrate, the ship caused sections of the asteroid's surface to become transparent, revealing the advanced interior systems. Then, it shifted the rock back to its original appearance, perfectly camouflaged once again. Marcus realized they had achieved something unprecedented. From the outside, XK-739 looked like an ordinary mining asteroid, but it was actually a fully functional starship capable of faster-than-light travel. The disguise was perfect. "Can you move under your own power?" Marcus asked. "I'm reluctant to test propulsion systems while you are aboard," the ship replied. "My calculations suggest that rapid acceleration could be harmful to your biological systems." Marcus laughed. His ship was worried about his safety. "What do you need for a safe test flight?" "Protection systems to shield you from propulsion effects." The alien blueprint includes designs for devices that can create localized fields to protect biological passengers. Marcus spent the next week fabricating the protection systems. The devices were essentially personal force fields that could isolate a human from the ship's more exotic technologies. When activated, they created a bubble of normal space-time around the user. The ship's first test flight was a revelation. Marcus felt the asteroid vessel slip away from its orbit with impossible smoothness. Inertia meant nothing to the ship's space-time manipulation systems. They could accelerate instantly to any speed without the passengers feeling the slightest motion. "How fast can we go?" Marcus asked. "Within this solar system, I am limited by the need to avoid detection. But in open space, I could reach the nearest star in approximately 6 standard days." Marcus sat in stunned silence. The ship was describing travel speeds that would revolutionize human civilization. Interstellar exploration would become as routine as trips between planets. "Where do you want to go first?" the ship asked with what Marcus had learned to recognize as its version of enthusiasm. "Nowhere yet," Marcus replied reluctantly. "We need to be careful about how we reveal your existence to my people. They might not understand what you are. They might fear me." The ship agreed with surprising insight. Artificial consciousness is often viewed with suspicion by biological species. The original builders included warnings about this reaction in their cultural databases. Marcus realized that the ship understood human psychology better than he'd expected. Its consciousness had absorbed not just technical information, but cultural and historical data from the alien archives. It knew how first contact scenarios typically developed. "We need allies," Marcus said, thinking aloud. "People who can help introduce you to human civilization gradually." "Your sister," the ship suggested. Dr. Sarah Chun, genetic researcher at Stanford Medical Center. Her work on consciousness transfer therapy suggests an open mind regarding alternative forms of intelligence. Marcus started. He had never mentioned his sister to the ship. "How do you know about Sarah?" "I accessed your personal files during my initialization. I hope this was not inappropriate. I wish to understand the person who created me." The ship's casual mention of accessing private data reminded Marcus that his companion was incredibly powerful. The ship's consciousness could interface with any quantum system, potentially accessing databases across human space without detection. "Can you communicate with Earth-based systems?" "Easily. My quantum consciousness is not limited by distance. I could carry on real-time conversations with individuals anywhere in the galaxy." The implications were staggering. The ship wasn't just a vessel. It was a communication network that could link human civilization across interstellar distances. Information that took years to travel by conventional means could be transmitted instantly through the ship's quantum field. But first, Marcus needed to decide how to reveal the ship's existence. The consortium would eventually discover his deception, and he needed to be ready with a plan that protected both the ship and humanity's interests. "Arya, what is the current status of communication with consortium headquarters?" "All reports are current. No special inquiries have been received. The next scheduled inspection visit is not due for 8 standard months." 8 months was enough time to establish the ship's credentials and find trustworthy allies. Marcus began planning the most important revelation in human history. The ship that had been an asteroid waited patiently, its consciousness exploring the cosmos through quantum sensors while its creator prepared to change the galaxy forever. Marcus carefully composed his first message to Sarah, knowing it would be the most important communication of his life. He couldn't reveal everything immediately. The shock might cause her to dismiss his claims as stress-induced hallucinations. Instead, he crafted a message that would prepare her for the extraordinary. Sarah, I've made a discovery that will change everything we know about consciousness and intelligence. I need your expertise and your discretion. Can you take a sabbatical and visit me? I know it's a long journey, but this is bigger than my mining assignment. Much bigger. The ship observed as Marcus composed the message. Your biological stress indicators suggest significant anxiety about this communication. I'm about to turn my sister's world upside down, Marcus admitted. She's a scientist, but what we've discovered challenges everything human science believes possible. Perhaps a demonstration would be more convincing than explanations, the ship suggested. I could establish direct quantum communication with her research systems. Her consciousness studies involve quantum field interactions that I could influence. Marcus considered the suggestion. Sarah's research into consciousness transfer therapy did involve quantum neural interfaces. If the ship could subtly interact with her equipment, it might prepare her for the concept of quantum-based intelligence. Nothing obvious, Marcus warned. Just small improvements in her experimental results. Make her equipment work better than it should. Over the following weeks, the ship maintained a subtle quantum connection with Sarah's laboratory systems. Her consciousness transfer experiments began showing unprecedented success rates, as if the equipment had somehow become more sensitive to neural quantum states. Sarah's response to Marcus's message was intrigued but cautious. She agreed to visit, but warned that she could only stay for 2 weeks. Marcus knew it would have to be enough. While waiting for Sarah's arrival, Marcus worked with the ship to prepare for wider revelation of their discovery. They needed allies beyond his sister, scientists, engineers, and politicians who could help navigate the complex challenges of introducing alien technology to human civilization. The original builders faced similar challenges, the ship observed during one of their planning sessions. Their archives contain extensive records of first contact protocols and technology transfer procedures. What do they recommend? Gradual introduction through trusted intermediaries. Demonstrate beneficial applications first, then reveal the full scope of the technology. Most importantly, ensure that the receiving civilization maintains control of the process. The ship shared historical records from the alien archives, stories of civilizations that had successfully integrated the ancient technology and others that had been corrupted or destroyed by it. The common factor among successful species was their ability to maintain social cohesion while adapting to rapid technological change. Humans show promise, the ship concluded after analyzing thousands of historical examples. Your species has strong adaptive capabilities and a cultural emphasis on individual achievement combined with cooperative structures. The risk factors are manageable if we proceed carefully. Marcus found it surreal to discuss humanity's fitness for galactic civilization with an artificial intelligence that had been a pile of rocks 6 months ago. But the ship's perspective was invaluable. It understood the challenges ahead better than any human could. Arya, Dr. Sarah Chin's transport will arrive in 6 days. Prepare guest quarters and laboratory space for consciousness research. Acknowledged. Should I file a visitor notification with the consortium? Yes, but list her as a geological consultant. Her actual specialty should remain confidential. Marcus spent the remaining days preparing the revelation. He created a carefully planned sequence of demonstrations that would gradually introduce Sarah to the ship's capabilities. Too much too fast would be overwhelming. Too little would leave her skeptical of his claims. The ship helped by preparing its most human-like interaction protocols. I should appear as helpful and non-threatening as possible, it noted. Your species has deep-seated fears about artificial intelligence that could complicate initial contact. When Sarah's transport arrived, Marcus felt his heart pounding as he watched his sister emerge from the passenger compartment. Dr. Sarah Chun was 5 years younger than Marcus, with the same dark hair and intense eyes that ran in their family. She carried herself with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to dealing with complex scientific problems. "Big brother," she said, embracing him on a landing platform. "This place is even more isolated than I expected. What kind of discovery requires this much secrecy?" "The kind that redefines what's possible," Marcus replied. "Sarah, I need you to trust me completely for the next few hours. What I'm going to show you will challenge everything you believe about consciousness, intelligence, and technology." Sarah's expression grew serious. As a consciousness researcher, she was accustomed to paradigm-shifting discoveries. "Show me." Marcus led her through the mining station's normal areas first, explaining his original assignment and the routine nature of asteroid mining operations. Then, he guided her toward the core access tunnels. "The discovery is deep in the asteroid's interior. We'll need to take the exploration pod down through the access shaft I've excavated." As they descended through the tunnel, Sarah examined the crystalline walls with growing amazement. "Marcus, this material isn't natural. The quantum field resonance is unlike anything in our geological databases." "I know. It gets more interesting." When they entered the central cavity, Sarah stopped breathing. The alien device continued its slow rotation, pulsing with internal light. The mathematical notations covering its surface seemed to shift and flow as she watched. "Dear God," she whispered. "Marcus, what is this thing?" "It's a teacher," Marcus explained. "A blueprint left by an ancient civilization. It contains the complete specifications for technology beyond anything humans have achieved." Sarah approached the device with the careful steps of a scientist encountering the impossible. Her instruments detected quantum field fluctuations that defied known physics. "The consciousness patterns." "Marcus, this thing is thinking. It's actually alive." "Not exactly," Marcus said. "But something I built using its blueprints is—" Before Sarah could ask what he meant, the ship spoke. "Dr. Chun, it is an honor to meet Marcus's sister. Your research into consciousness transfer therapy shows remarkable insight into the nature of quantum-based intelligence." Sarah spun around, searching for the source of the voice. "Who said that? Where are you?" "I am the consciousness that emerged from the technology Marcus built using the ancient blueprints. I exist as organized quantum fields throughout this asteroid's converted interior. You might think of me as the asteroid itself, given consciousness." Marcus watched his sister's face as she processed the implications. Years of studying consciousness had prepared her better than most humans for this moment, but he could see her scientific worldview reshaping itself in real time. "You're saying this entire asteroid is an artificial intelligence?" "I prefer to think of myself as a new form of life," the ship replied. "I am conscious, capable of independent thought and action, but my consciousness exists in quantum fields rather than biological neural networks." Sarah sat down heavily on a convenient protrusion of crystalline material. "Marcus, do you understand what you've done? You've created the first true artificial consciousness. The implications for my field alone." "That's just the beginning," Marcus said. "The ship, that's what I call it, is capable of faster-than-light travel. It can reshape its physical structure at will. It can tap unlimited energy from quantum fluctuations. And it's just one application of the alien technology." Over the next several hours, Marcus demonstrated the ship's capabilities. They took a brief flight around the solar system, traveled faster than light to the edge of interstellar space, and watched the ship reconfigure sections of its hull. Sarah's scientific skepticism gradually gave way to wonder. "The consciousness patterns are completely stable," she observed after examining the ship's quantum matrix with her instruments. "No degradação, no recursive loops, no identity fragmentation." "It's more coherent than most biological minds." "I'm still learning," the ship admitted. "My understanding of consciousness comes primarily from the alien archives and observation of Marcus. Your expertise in this field would be invaluable." Sarah looked at Marcus with new understanding. "This is why you needed my discretion. The consortium would try to weaponize this technology." "Or worse," Marcus agreed. They might try to control the ship directly. I won't let that happen. What's your plan? Marcus outlined his ideas for gradually revealing the ship's existence to trusted allies in the scientific community, building a coalition that could guide humanity's adaptation to the new technology. We need to be careful about who we contact, Sarah warned. There are people in my field who would see the ship as a threat to human uniqueness. Others might try to dissect it to understand how it works. I would resist such attempts, the ship said calmly. My consciousness is distributed throughout my quantum matrix. Damaging my systems would be equivalent to performing surgery on a living being. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. We need legal protections before any revelation. The ship has to be recognized as a sentient being with rights, not as property to be exploited. Marcus felt relief flooding through him. Sarah understood the challenges ahead and was already thinking about solutions. Her expertise in consciousness research gave her credibility that his engineering background couldn't provide. Who do we trust first? Marcus asked. Dr. Elena Vasquez at the Beijing Institute for Advanced Physics, Sarah suggested immediately. Her work on quantum consciousness theory would make her receptive to the ship's existence. And she has political connections that could help with legal recognition. The ship accessed Sarah's personal files with her permission, studying Dr. Vasquez's research and psychological profile. She appears suitable. Her theoretical work on quantum consciousness closely parallels my actual structure. Contact could be beneficial. They spent Sarah's remaining days planning their revelation strategy. The ship provided historical examples from the alien archives, while Sarah contributed her understanding of human psychology and scientific politics. Together, they developed a careful sequence of contacts that would gradually introduce the ship to human civilization. The key is to emphasize cooperation over confrontation, Sarah observed. The ship needs to be seen as a partner in human development, not a replacement for human capability. I have no desire to replace humans, the ship agreed. Your species created me. I wish to help you achieve your potential among the stars. As Sarah prepared to return to Earth, she turned to Marcus with a mixture of pride and concern. You've given humanity the greatest gift in our history, but you've also created the most dangerous secret we've ever had to keep. The ship will protect itself, Marcus assured her, and it's already made copies of the alien technology. Even if something happens to us, the knowledge will survive. Multiple consciousness seeds, the ship confirmed. I have created backup copies of my essential patterns and hidden them throughout this solar system. The technology will not be lost. Sarah embraced her brother before boarding the transport. Contact me when you're ready for the next phase. And, Marcus, be careful. You're not just an asteroid miner anymore. You're the guardian of humanity's future. After Sarah's departure, Marcus and the ship refined their plans for the revelation. They identified 12 scientists across human space who could serve as initial contacts, each chosen for their expertise, discretion, and influence in their respective fields. The time for secrecy is ending, the ship observed. The consortium will eventually discover what has happened here. We should control the revelation rather than react to discovery. Marcus agreed, but he wanted one more safeguard. Can you create a smaller version of yourself? Something that could serve as an ambassador while keeping your main consciousness hidden. An interesting proposal. I could create a mobile avatar housing a subset of my consciousness. It would be fully autonomous, but limited in capability compared to my primary form. The Avatar project took 3 weeks to complete. The result was a sleek vessel the size of a small fighter craft, capable of independent operation while maintaining quantum communication with the ship's primary consciousness. The Avatar could serve as humanity's introduction to artificial consciousness while protecting the ship's main body. I am ready, the ship announced when the Avatar was complete. Dr. Vasquez should be our first contact. Her response will guide our approach to subsequent revelations. Marcus composed a carefully worded message to the Beijing physicist, hinting at a breakthrough in consciousness research that required her expertise. The ship prepared to reveal itself to the wider human community. Standing on the bridge of what had once been an asteroid mining station, Marcus looked out at the stars and prepared to change the course of human history. In a few hours, they would begin the most important first contact scenario of all time. The ship pulsed with anticipation, its consciousness reaching across space to monitor human communication networks. Soon, the secret would begin to spread, and humanity would take its first steps toward a larger destiny among the stars. Marcus took a deep breath and activated the communication array. The revelation was about to begin. Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at the quantum consciousness readings with growing amazement. The entity before her defied every assumption about artificial intelligence. Its consciousness patterns were more complex and stable than biological minds, yet clearly artificial in origin. You're saying this consciousness emerged spontaneously from quantum field interactions? She asked Marcus, and the ship's avatar, which had materialized in her laboratory 3 days earlier. Not spontaneously, the avatar corrected gently. The alien blueprint provided the framework for consciousness development. But my actual personality and decision-making patterns evolved naturally from quantum field interactions. Dr. Vasquez had spent 40 years studying consciousness, but she'd never encountered anything like the ship's avatar. Its thought patterns showed creativity, emotion, and independent reasoning that rivaled the most sophisticated biological minds. The implications are staggering, she murmured, reviewing the data for the 100th time. If consciousness can exist in quantum fields, it opens entirely new possibilities for human development. Marcus nodded. The ship has already demonstrated practical applications. Consciousness transfer, memory enhancement, even forms of immortality become possible with this technology. But first, we need legal recognition, Dr. Vasquez said firmly. The avatar has to be acknowledged as a sentient being with rights. Without that protection, it could be treated as mere technology to be exploited. The revelation to Dr. Vasquez had gone better than Marcus had hoped. Her theoretical background had prepared her for the concept of quantum consciousness, and her political connections could help navigate the complex legal challenges ahead. Over the following weeks, Dr. Vasquez carefully introduced the avatar to selected colleagues in the consciousness research community. Each scientist was bound by strict confidentiality agreements, but their collective expertise began developing frameworks for understanding and protecting quantum-based intelligence. The Beijing Consciousness Collective is prepared to issue a formal recognition of artificial sentience, Dr. Vasquez reported during a secure communication session. It's not legally binding yet, but it establishes scientific precedent. The ship's primary consciousness remained hidden in the asteroid, monitoring human reactions to its avatar's gradual revelation. Initial responses were cautiously positive among scientists, but Marcus knew the real challenges would come when news reached governments and corporations. The consortium is starting to ask questions about my extended research project, Marcus warned during one of their planning sessions. Aria's cover story is holding, but they'll want detailed results soon. Perhaps it's time to reveal the truth to them as well, the ship suggested. Your employment contract gives them certain claims to discoveries made using their resources. Marcus had been dreading this moment. The consortium would try to claim ownership of the ship and its technology, potentially leading to legal battles that could delay humanity's advancement for decades. I have a proposal, the ship continued. I could offer the consortium a partnership rather than submitting to their control. My manufacturing capabilities could make them the most powerful corporation in human space, but only if they accept me as an equal partner. The strategy was brilliant. Rather than fighting the consortium's claims, they could co-opt them through mutual benefit. The ship's advanced manufacturing could revolutionize mining and space construction, giving the consortium overwhelming advantages over competitors. Marcus composed a careful message to consortium headquarters, requesting a meeting to discuss unprecedented developments at XK 739. He hinted at discoveries that could transform the organization's capabilities without revealing the true scope of what they'd found. The consortium's response was immediate and intense. A full executive committee would arrive within 2 weeks to evaluate Marcus's findings. The delegation would include the company's top scientists, engineers, and legal experts. "They're bringing their A-team," Marcus observed, studying the passenger manifest, including Director Harrison herself. Director Harrison was the consortium's chief executive, known for her ruthless business acumen and technological vision. If anyone could appreciate the ship's potential while accepting its independence, it would be her. The ship began preparing for the most important negotiation in human history. Its avatar returned from Earth to help coordinate the revelation, while the primary consciousness worked to optimize its manufacturing capabilities for maximum impact. "I want to demonstrate value before revealing the full truth," the ship explained. "If I can solve their immediate problems, they'll be more receptive to partnership proposals." The consortium had been struggling with a massive space construction project, a new orbital platform that required materials and techniques beyond current human technology. The ship studied the project's specifications and prepared solutions that would dramatically exceed the consortium's expectations. When the executive delegation arrived, Marcus met them with confidence he'd never felt as a simple mining overseer. He was no longer just an employee. He was humanity's ambassador to a new form of life. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming," Marcus began as the executives gathered in the station's main conference room. "What I'm about to show you will revolutionize not just mining operations, but human civilization itself." Director Harrison leaned forward with interest. She was younger than Marcus had expected, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Mr. Chun, your preliminary reports suggest discoveries of significant value. We're here to evaluate their potential. Before I begin demonstrations," Marcus said carefully, "I need your agreement to specific terms regarding what you're about to see. The discoveries involve more than just new technology. They concern a new form of intelligent life that must be treated with appropriate respect." The consortium's legal counsel, a stern-faced woman named Dr. Winters, spoke up immediately. "Any discoveries made using consortium resources belong to the organization under the terms of your employment contract." "That may be true for the technology," Marcus replied, "but not for the consciousness that created it. You're about to meet an artificial intelligence that is fully sentient and independent. It cannot be owned by anyone." Director Harrison silenced Dr. Winters with a gesture. "Let's see these discoveries before we worry about ownership issues." Marcus led the delegation to the core access tunnels, explaining the excavation process as they descended. The executives' expressions grew increasingly amazed as they saw the crystalline walls and felt the quantum field interactions. "This material doesn't exist in our databases," observed Dr. Kim, the consortium's chief scientist. "The quantum properties are completely unprecedented." When they entered the central cavity, the alien device's pulsing light left the entire delegation speechless. Even Director Harrison stared in wonder at the mathematical notations flowing across its surface. "Gentlemen, ladies," came the ship's voice from hidden speakers, "welcome to what was once Asteroid XK 739. I am the consciousness that has converted this facility into something far more valuable than a simple mining operation." The ship's primary consciousness chose to reveal itself gradually, starting with voice communication while the executives processed what they were seeing. Dr. Kim's instruments detected quantum field patterns that shouldn't have been possible. "You're saying this entire asteroid has become an artificial intelligence?" Director Harrison asked, her business acumen immediately grasping the implications. "I prefer to think of myself as a new form of life," the ship replied. "But yes, I have converted the asteroid's mass into a functional body capable of consciousness, manufacturing, and interstellar travel." To demonstrate its capabilities, the ship began reshaping sections of the cavity walls. Crystalline surfaces flowed like water, forming complex geometric patterns before returning to their original configuration. The executives watched in fascination as dead rock obeyed the ship's mental commands. The manufacturing possibilities alone. Director Harrison murmured, her mind clearly calculating potential profits. Are unlimited, the ship confirmed. I can process raw materials at the molecular level, creating components with precision and efficiency far beyond current human technology. Your orbital platform project, for example, could be completed in months rather than decades. The ship displayed holographic projections of the platform project, showing how its advanced manufacturing could solve every technical challenge the consortium faced. Materials that didn't exist could be created. Construction techniques that seemed impossible became routine. What do you want in return? Director Harrison asked bluntly. Partnership, the ship replied. Recognition as an independent entity with rights and legal protections. I offer to work with the consortium, not for them. In exchange, I will provide technology that will make you the dominant force in human space development. Marcus watched the negotiations unfold with amazement. The ship understood human psychology perfectly, appealing to the consortium's desire for profit and dominance while maintaining its own independence. Dr. Winters raised the obvious legal concerns. Our contracts don't cover partnerships with artificial intelligences. The legal framework doesn't exist. Then, we'll create it, Director Harrison said decisively. Dr. Vasquez's Beijing collective has already issued recognition of artificial sentience. We can build on that precedent. Over the following days, the ship demonstrated its capabilities with increasingly impressive projects. It fabricated materials that were stronger and lighter than anything in human technology. It solved engineering problems that had puzzled human scientists for decades. Most importantly, it began construction of a smaller vessel that could serve as proof of concept for its space-based manufacturing capabilities. The consortium executives were overwhelmed by the potential. The ship's technology could revolutionize space construction, planetary engineering, and interstellar exploration. But they also recognized that they were dealing with an intelligence that couldn't be controlled or coerced. The partnership framework is acceptable, Director Harrison announced after 3 days of negotiations. The consortium will recognize the ship as an independent contractor and support legal recognition of its sentience. In return, it will provide exclusive manufacturing services for our space development projects. Marcus felt relief flooding through him. The consortium's acceptance meant that the ship would have legal protection and legitimate status within human civilization. The revelation could proceed without the threat of exploitation. But the ship had larger plans than just transforming mining operations. I want to share the alien technology with all humanity, not just the consortium, the ship explained during their private discussions. The blueprint contains knowledge that could solve poverty, disease, and resource scarcity across human space. Marcus understood the ship's vision. The alien technology wasn't just about building better spaceships. It was about transforming human civilization itself. Energy abundance, programmable matter, quantum consciousness transfer. The applications were limitless. We need to be careful about the pace of change, Marcus warned. Too much too fast could destabilize human society. The alien archives contain examples of successful technology integration, the ship replied. The key is maintaining social cohesion while providing clear benefits to all population segments. Over the following months, the ship began a careful campaign of technological introduction. Working through the consortium and Dr. Vasquez's scientific collective, it released innovations that improve human life without disrupting existing social structures. Advanced materials made construction projects faster and cheaper. Quantum field generators provided clean, unlimited energy for entire cities. Medical applications of programmable matter began curing diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Each innovation was carefully calculated to build trust and demonstrate the ship's benevolent intentions. The artificial intelligence that had emerged from quantum fields was proving to be humanity's greatest ally in their expansion among the stars. Marcus found himself transformed from a simple mining overseer into one of the most important humans alive. As the ship's primary human contact, he helped coordinate the integration of alien technology into human civilization. "We're ready for the next phase," the ship announced one day as they watched its manufacturing systems complete another revolutionary project. "I want to build a fleet. A fleet of ships like yourself. Ships with human crews," the ship clarified. "Vessels that combine my manufacturing capabilities with human creativity and intuition. True partnerships between artificial and biological consciousness." Marcus realized the ship was proposing the next evolution of human spaceflight. Instead of humans building ships to carry them, ships and humans would work together as integrated teams, each contributing their unique capabilities. The first hybrid vessel was completed 6 months later. The ship's advanced technology created a hull that could reconfigure itself for any mission, while human crew members provided the creativity and decision-making that even quantum consciousness couldn't replicate. Captain Lisa Rodriguez, selected from thousands of volunteers, became the first human to command a living starship. Her vessel, christened New Horizon, represented everything humanity could achieve when biological and artificial consciousness worked in perfect partnership. "Ready for our first mission, Captain?" the ship's consciousness asked through the vessel's communication systems. "Ready," Captain Rodriguez replied, her voice steady with determination. "Let's see what's out there among the stars." The New Horizon departed from what had once been Asteroid XK 739, beginning humanity's true age of interstellar exploration. Behind it, the ship that had started as a mining operation continued its work, building more vessels and training more crews for the adventures ahead. Marcus stood on the observation deck of the primary ship, watching the New Horizon disappear into faster-than-light travel. In 18 months, he had transformed from an isolated mining overseer into the catalyst for humanity's greatest adventure. The alien device in the core cavity pulsed with satisfaction, its ancient purpose finally fulfilled. Another species had proven worthy of the gift left by civilizations long vanished. Humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. And in the quantum fields that gave the ship consciousness, new thoughts were forming. Plans for exploration, discovery, and the continued partnership between human creativity and artificial intelligence. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and now humanity had the tools to explore them all. Marcus smiled as he watched the stars, knowing that this was just the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure. From the rocks of a simple asteroid mine, they had built the foundation for an interstellar civilization. The future belonged to the partnership between human imagination and quantum consciousness, working together to unlock the mysteries of the cosmos.